Hey everybody, Bob Adams here. Listen, we're having to redo our March 14th webinar presentation. We had some real serious technical issues that showed up. So we're redoing this. It's going to be kind of choppy for a little bit, but we're going to cover the following things. Tony's got a report. It's been pre-recorded. I'm just going to drop it in here. I'm going to talk about First State Depository, currenciesforsale.com, a little bit about Maxplans, an AI class on rewriters, and then we're not going to have a question and answer period afterwards because we don't have anybody to question and answer. All right, but on that note, I'm going to step out of the way because I know Tony's got his stuff here.
Thank you, Bob, for that intro. Just a quick intro before I get started here. We've had huge technical sound issues. And so the problem was is some people caught it, some people couldn't. I guess we narrowed it down to where people who had good speakers with good bass, they had no problems with it. But people that were listening from their phones, or the speakers weren't as high end quality, or maybe not such a high end quality sound card, major issues. I mean, it's been a long time since I got that many emails. Unfortunately, is because of the technical issues. So we're going to redo these, and we narrowed it down, you guys. We thought it might have been the platform we're recording on. We thought it might have been the software that Bob was using to render it. We, the last two ditch efforts to try to figure this out is we thought it was my microphone, and so I went and bought a new microphone, that headset with the microphone on it, and it was still doing it. So we decided it was my phone. For some reason, there's this massive delay and crackle in my phone that caused the issue. So we're having to redo these things. So I'm going to put up exactly what we were talking about before. You can always do it better the second time around, right? But so here we go. And thank you guys for letting us know, and thank you guys for your patience. So the first audio that we had out had to do with we discovered that Iraq has a completely different business plan, a completely different strategy on how they're going to do business and how they're going to add value to the currency. So remember the underlying principle here, ladies and gentlemen. So real quick, let's talk about why we think that Iraq is going to add value to the currency. All right. If you go back into the day, the 70s or the 60s, and when they started building up the value of their currency, what were they doing? They were getting more customers, and they were producing more energy resource, whether it was natural gas or oil. All the Mideast countries were doing that. All right. So, that's kind of the baseline. It's like, when Walmart got started, they were super, super successful. How many customers did they have? And how much were they making? All right. So if you move forward, you look at Iraq now, obviously they're producing a lot more. Obviously they have a lot more customers. So why doesn't it reflect in their currency? Not only that, but that's not, you can't just use that as an assumption by itself. You got to understand that Iraq's government said specifically, it's recorded everywhere, that we want to at a minimum, get their currency 1-to-1 with the US dollar. All right. So going back, and the basic of this speculation is, can they produce to be able to do that, and can they get the customers to be able to do that? And they already have. You look at what they used to have compared to what they have now, it's there. It's that simple. That's all it is. It's nothing more than that. I don't know why there were so many people that were so militant and then came after people who are investing in Iraq or speculating in Iraq's currency like it was some type of different religion or something like that. It was the strangest thing ever, but it's still out there. It's all still out there, but you guys, that's all it is. So we went the last 8 years with the business plan that Iraq had, using the US dollar, because that was the system they were within. Remember, everything that they make in US dollars, selling energy, goes to a bank in New York. All right. So it's regulated. We still regulate them. So what did we do when we went into Iraq, Gulf War II? We got rid of a dictator, and we put in a government, a coalition government. And then it transitioned to the Iraqi government. Now that's it. So mission accomplished. Well, what did we do? We went into Iraq. We got rid of a dictator. We reestablished a government. What did we do in Afghanistan? We went into Afghanistan. We got rid of their government, and then we pulled out, and the Taliban came back. So we lost that one. That's how you measure that. It's very easy. It's very easy. Just because the policies that come out of Iraq aren't, everyday Republican and Democrat issues, people are like, oh my God, the disaster. It's like, well, no, it's a little bit different than that. We did win, but you still have influence from Iran. You still have Sunni versus Shia, and those two churches hate each other, right? So that's what's going on. It's that simple. But can Iraq as a country, can they produce the energy that they use or they sell, and can they get more customers? That's it. Very simple. So, what they've decided to do, because we've talked about in length the PG2, the IPEF, and United States our strategy on to we're restructuring our markets. That's all we're doing, you guys. We're restructuring our markets. There's going to be a 2-year recession, no matter what. Doesn't matter if it was a natural recession from high energy prices, and that's exactly what it is. All right. Or if it's a recession that we had to cause because that we're cheating and we're paying back our debt with a lower value currency, and we're having trouble doing that because everybody wants the U.S. dollar. But what did Iraq? Think about that. They went from like it was between $2.70 to $3 plus their currency. And after the wars that they had, it kept going down. Obviously, they're not having as much production. That'll cause the value to go down. They lost customers. Their supply chain completely broke up. But they've reestablished that. That's the only thing they have reestablished. Iraq, all right. But they still have their currency at a tenth of a penny. It's an advantage. Remember the 1929 crash had to do with countries, the industrial countries. They were in a currency war. Who could devalue their currency? And then it was cheaper to do business with France or Germany or whatever. And then they create a bigger customer base. It's always going to be that. It's kind of strange, huh? Because there's all these books out there, this and that, and talking about the different strategies. In the end, it's who has the most customers, who can make the most money. So let's say if a country can't get as many customers as the United States, because the United States has a bigger population, then they go for efficiency. Who's the most efficient country? It is, you guys, it is nothing more than that. It's kind of strange, all the conspiracy theories and all the genuine philosophies and ideas out there. And then in the end, that's all it is. It's resources and manpower, and then who has access to it. That's all it is. But the question is that I've been getting from people is, okay, it's like, look, Iraq has this new plan, all right, to expand their customer base. They know that they're pinned down by U.S. policy and the U.S. dollar, and they want to start accepting other currencies. And under the normal circumstances, it would have been a no-no. But since we're retracting the U.S. dollar, because we're trying to get the U.S. dollar out of our enemies' hands, our market enemies, you guys, our market enemies. We're competing. Get them out. One, get dollars out of their hands. That's one. Number two, re-aim that currency so we can build our own markets with countries that are good allies with us. And that's it. There is nothing else attached to that. All right. So the problem with Iraq and the entire Middle East is that, okay, well, you're retracting the U.S. dollar to do this. You're shoring up your economy. How do we do this? And so that's what we're talking about. How Iraq came up. This is their new business plan. So they're able to accept other currencies, but it's not going to be across the board. They're able to accept the yuan for energy products, or they can just flat out trade. For one product for another product, a 1-to-1 ratio, or something like that. So having said that, you guys, I haven't seen one shred of evidence that's what they're doing right now. Any of those countries. I haven't seen anything. And I'm curious if anybody can find any of that stuff. Not talking about they're going to, not talking about, what a good idea, the benefits or anything like that. But it's like, no, here's the math. Here's the 1-to-1 exchange for the yuan for Iraq's energy. So that has yet to be seen. But what they want to do is they want to diversify because they want to be able to expand their customer base. So it's not going to hurt the U.S. dollar because what we're doing is we're going from we have access to 25% of the globe's the globe's GDP. All right. United States, we're so big, we're so massive, 25% of the world's GDP. Now, this isn't like back in the old days where there was no competition. Think about this. The British Empire at one time at its height, it was a point between when they were just a naval empire and they started building it up to where they were an industrial empire. They controlled 50% of the world's GDP because they controlled the trade routes. All right. So, and it was easier because Germany hadn't industrialized. Nobody. It was just England. It was just England. By the way, the reason the United States industrialized the way that we did is because there was so much money in England that they wanted to. Even though we separated, there was a war. We separated. How do they take that wealth that they created? How do they invest in the United States? And that's where we had the structure where we, the different types of central banks and those type of agreements, because they didn't want to go to, a handshake with the good old boy in Kentucky and then invest, equivalent to billions of dollars, or British pounds. So that's how we ended up creating our system to inject money and to expand our markets. How do we expand our markets? That's always been the question. These debates on, the banking systems and what we should do and stuff like that, it's always some type of weird political moral argument or something like that. But in the end, though, at the time, how do we expand our customer base? And then how do we invite people who have money to invest? Think about it, you guys. You go out and if you're starting a business, what do? If you don't have the money, you got to go out and get loans. Well, that's what the United States was doing at the time when we started building our infrastructure. And how do we get other outside entities to invest? And it's like, well, here's the standard. Here's what it is we have to do to meet in the middle. That's all it was. That's all it'll ever be. So I know there's accusations out there and stuff like that, but usually that's backed by the morality argument, which the United States became the most wealthiest country on the planet. So obviously those people who were against it were wrong. And it's that easy, right? But going back to, the United States, what we're doing, the reason the question is like, hey, Tony, I thought we had the supply times velocity going with the US dollar. This is going to hurt us. And how does that work? It doesn't seem like a rock would gain more customers if they piss off America, the United States. The United States wants everybody to use its dollar because it helps that supply times velocity. Well, you guys, what we're doing is exactly that. So it's not going to hurt us once they do start the process. And remember, this came from Saudi Arabia. It didn't come from Iraq. Iraq just, it's like, yeah, no, that's a good business plan. We're going to snag that. We're going to use that. That's all it is. But you guys, the United States is in a process of where it's the G7. All right. We're in partners with G7. They are our customers and we are their customers. And we're getting rid of the bad apples that were part of the Trilateral Commission and the, just people went against us. They're out. So what our aim is to aim the U.S. dollars at partners that are on the same side. So that's where the IPEF countries come in. It's like, look, if you want to be part of this, this is the standard. This is what you have to do, and you're part of our system. So our goal is to expand from 25% of the world's GDP to have access to 40 to 45% of the world's GDP, and that's why we don't mind. And we're going through this recession right now, in part because of that. It's some of our policies that we're going to do because we have to decouple ourselves away from China. And that's why China is making all its very, very nervous moves that they're making. And you guys, that's the main reason I keep I want you guys to listen to Peter Zahn, because he talks about demographics and how there's not going to be a policy that's going to get China out of what's coming down the road for them. Can't just repopulate that quick. It's a huge problem for them. They went from having, I think it was like in the 40s and 50s and below, 6 kids per family, and now they're barely having one, and it's completely devastated. There's nobody aging more on the planet, a population aging more than China. So that means that they don't have that customer base. In other words, the people are getting older, but older people spend less. It's not about them being innovative or creating a market. Older people spend less, and they're going to have more older people than any country, any region on the planet. And it means everything. And they know this, by the way. They're very, very scared. And so that's why Peter Zion predicts that China won't even probably be around in the next 10 years. And if it is, it's broken up, and there's going to be civil wars and everything like that, because it ain't going to happen. So China is we're competing against the Belt Road Initiative. The PG2 is competing against the Belt Road Initiative, and Iraq and Saudi Arabia understand this, and they don't want to pick sides. And so how do we do this? What they realized, you guys, is that they can't pick sides because this thing's never ending. There's always going to be one side or the other. For some reason, they thought that market-wise, it would kind of pan out, and they would be able to pick. And so, they've always picked the West. They've always predicted that the West would win, but they don't want to offend half of the globe. These mega countries, with these huge populations, and they're right. You know what I mean? That's exactly what you only watch these companies that get into politics, and they eliminate half their customers because of something stupid that they say. It's kind of uncanny watching. You think we're smarter, right? This technology, we're smarter. Oh, these companies are stupid. It's unbelievable how they shoot themselves in the foot. So the Middle East is trying to avoid those type of mistakes. How do we expand our markets? We don't want to offend anybody. We want everybody to be our customers. And so that's the position that they're in. So they can expand. And right now, just between you and I, they can have a way higher value currency. I keep saying 50, 56 cents. That hasn't changed. But people have been sending me emails, very, very good points. Like, look, why would they, a gentleman just sent me an email saying 30 cents. The average around that region is at the highest, 30 cents. So why wouldn't Iraq, they're in that region, they're competing. Why wouldn't they keep it at that level so they can compete? And that, the value of their currencies is so high. It's because Iraq doesn't want to depend on energy. They know that sooner or later that's going to end. And that's their philosophy. That's their business strategy, is that they want to build a foundation for their currency using energy products, but they know that one day that will come to an end. They know that these countries with these green energy initiatives and stuff like that. You guys, it's not going to be, the United States is not going to be ran on solar panel. Neither is Europe. All right. It's kind of funny because from the conservative side, we got in PG2. We've been trying to do it for 12 years. Counter China's Belt Road Initiative. We've been trying to get to where we're outlawing our high-tech industry going to China and our chips. And it was a Democrat, Biden, who did all that. It's kind of strange. But, what we did is we said, okay, look, we're going to have to meet the middle somewhere here. And we supported parts of the Green Deal. That's what happened. But, and I talked to Republicans who their philosophy behind that was like, look, let them try. Let them try. They're going to find out the energy is going to go through the roof. Everybody's going to hate them, and you can't get rid of oil. That's why it's hilarious. You see Biden talking in some of his speeches saying, hey, look, we're probably going to need oil for 10 years or maybe even longer. And then the crowd roars with laughter. Like, yeah, no shit. So that's where, right now where we're at from a political perspective on the Green Deal but you have to look at it from the perspective of Iraq, all right, and the Middle East. Germany, France, United States, all these countries that manufactures vehicles, Japan, they're still building hybrids. You don't need as much oil as you did back in the day. Everything's becoming more and more and more and more efficient, right? They see that trend. So that's why Iraq doesn't want to be in that 30-cent range and just depend on energy. They need a currency that supports the foundation for their energy markets, and they also need a currency that can help them invest in completely different sectors so they can diversify. And so that's why they want it way above the 30 cents that the average that everybody else has in that region. It's kind of strange because if you look at the countries in those regions, you look at what they invest in, and every country is diversified a little bit, but most of those countries are not. It's energy and then something else like banking, energy and then high tech. It's like one or two things. All right. You look at the United States, we have everything. We have the real estate market. We have the energy markets. We have the high tech markets. You name it, across the board. That's what they're after, and you can only do that. You guys, their standard is the U.S. dollar. Because they're like, look, who's the most diversified, the most secure economically, it doesn't matter if you look at what we're going through, a recession or what, but the most coveted currency on the planet. And they want to follow that value. Now, they want to go a lot higher than that. I don't know how. That's why I said my strategy is up to $1. Beyond that, I don't know. That's a completely different business strategy for Iraq. But we're having this conversation to let you guys know what their intent is. On how they're doing it based on policy and right now the current economic fallout that's coming from these policies that are out. You have the war with Ukraine. That's changed everything. You guys, the gloves are off. All right. So there was if you think about it, what's been going on, the the multipolar world versus the West. Multipolar world's going broke. They're simply going broke. You look at the United States, and in World War One, we supported these countries. We helped them win wars. And then after World War II, through the Monroe Doctrine and all this stuff, we financed. We helped finance Europe and build them up to where they're at today. So we have that power. At the end of World War II, you guys, there was nothing out there. People do not realize there was nothing out there. There was nothing that can encroach on us. Even though we were competing against the USSR, economically, they were never close to us. They didn't produce anything. They didn't have customers. All right. So it wasn't, it's kind of strange. People know now. Now, during the Cold War, people didn't know that. But now that we have, a lot better information, and those goggles are a lot clearer, and the water's not as muddy. And you can see that Russia, they didn't have customers like the West does. They weren't even structured. They were bound to fall sooner or later. As long as there was no major war, Russia was going to collapse. And so that's what's happening. You're seeing that. So kind of interesting. So to wrap this up, ladies and gentlemen, that's what Iraq is doing. That's their new strategy. It's very simple. How do they expand their customer base? And right now they want to accept other currencies. And under normal circumstances, if we weren't doing what the United States, if we weren't doing what we are doing right now, it probably would have hurt the supply times velocity of the U.S. dollar. Wouldn't have collapsed or anything like that. We would have figured it out. So because of the strategies that we're under, that's what they came up with. So they can figure this out, because we will retract the U.S. dollar, and we're going to aim it out. We're going for 25% of the world's GDP, and we're going to aim it towards between 40 and 45% of the world's GDP. And that's what PG2 and the IPEF is all about. And so Saudi Arabia and Iraq is reacting policy-wise to do that. So it's very good news on both ends. All right. It's very, very good news. But real quick, because we get a lot of questions on, especially putting the audio when we put out, when we first came out with this information, ladies and gentlemen, where do I buy the IQD? Where do I get it? How do I, it's called currencyforsale.com. So I want to let you guys know I'm not a part of any of this or anything like that. The strategy, the reason I support that platform, it's because that when you go to a dealer, you're paying 40%. So let's say if you were to sell your currency, let's say you needed the money for emergency, or you don't need as much, you're diversifying, you got to get into something else. They pay you as little as possible, the dealers, and then when you go to buy, it's a minimum 30 to 40% markup. Well, this platform is it's a way for the buyer and the seller to get together, and for you to have that relationship, and that's it. So very cool, very clean, and get rid of this 40% markup in the market. But I want to let you guys know I'm not charging. I shouldn't say that. I'm not a part of it. I'm not making any money off it, market wise, you name it. It's just a tool that you guys need to recognize. The other thing is that, the one thing that's cool about what Bob offers through the CRUT. Now, you guys, everything that we're talking about here, if you look at what we're talking about, corporate intelligence and then policy, and it's all about protecting the base, the product, and making sure that they have access to the customers, all that stuff. All right. But the main thing that people don't understand, every time that one of these companies, where you have a new product, they put something together, they build their strategy based on their tax plan. It's like, what's the tax code? How do we do this? All right. And then they build the build out on how they're going to stage on how the product's going to come out, the pricing of that product, and their profits. But it's based on taxes. You guys have to understand, if you want to win, succeed, and move down that road, you have to be able to take care of that. And there's nobody in the community better, even outside the community, better than that than Bob. And he talks about the CRUT and the different vehicles that he has for you guys to take advantage of, because you're gonna get hit by taxes. You will. So you have to maintain and sustain that whatever it is that you when the time comes. If you're going to exchange then, or you're going to wait for it to go up to $1, or that all that is talked about. But you'll never know what you can do until you get in contact with Bob and just sit there and have a free conversation with them. There's nobody who's talked to more people and had access to more people that are in the same position that you and I are in. And I get emails all the time. People, he's like, you know what? All the time, and mostly women, believe it or not, talking about how how comfortable they feel. They know they're set. They know they're ready to go. There's nothing for them to do, but sit back and watch and see how this policy unfolds, and and then just pick a time when to exchange when that time comes. So you guys, I highly recommend that. And Bob will probably have some more information for you here. And thanks everybody. I have another audio coming up, and because we have to make up for these things here. And so I'm going to get the next audio. I'm going to take some questions and stuff like that that we talked about before. But thank you guys for your patience. I'm sorry for the technical delay. And until the next time, everybody, God bless. Thanks all.
For a little bit more. First of all, for those of you who don't know, it's a vaulting service. It's actually in Delaware over on the East Coast. And it's used by several custodial services for Precious Metal Roth. Now, the problem that they got into has nothing to do with the IQD or the Precious Metal Roth. What they did is they started something in 2014 with silver and having people lease the silver to them so they could go ahead and invest it and do a few other odds and ends. Well, anyway, they got themselves in deep doo-doo with it. And so now it's gone into receivership. So if you're using it, you have until April 1st to file to move your IQD to another vault. If you don't respond by that time, your assets could be locked up in a judicial mess for months, guys. So really pay attention to the deadline on this. And you can learn more by going to the receivership website, which is under fsdrreceivership.com. I'll have that in the end of the presentation today. I'll send out the email as I always do. All these links are going to be available at that point in time. Now, also, I have the forms that you need to move the IQD out of there. I managed to get them today. I put them into the back office or the download option on currencies for sale. So you can get it there if you haven't already got it. Now, I've talked to a lot of people. Some people knew about it. They were notified by their custodial service or other places. A lot of people didn't know. They didn't have an idea that their IQD was sitting in a spot that was in trouble. So, yeah, if you didn't know, now you know, and here's how you can get those forms. Now, if you're looking for a new vaulting service, I would highly recommend Armored Vaults in Boise, Idaho. I use them. I've used them for years. And they're at goldsilvervault.com. And I just talked to Bob, who's the guy that manages it. And then you can go to the website and you can download the storage agreement. And the only thing you need to have is pages 1 and 7. You fill those out and you hand those over to your current custodial services. And then they will handle it from there. And if you got any questions, give them a call at 208-468-3600. And they will pay for the shipping of your IQD to their vault. So you've got a source here to be able to handle it. I trust these guys. I've known them for a long, long time. All right, I want to talk about currencies for sale. I know that we talked about it just briefly in that conversation we had with Tony there. I created this thing last week and really got into it like on Thursday and Friday in order to get the thing put together. And its purpose is to have a location that's better controlled and marketed to a much larger audience. And the advantages to the sellers, now these are the guys who've got IQ they want to get sold, it's a way to sell it for a better price, and you can use the funds to then populate your Precious Metal Roth. Now, guys, we've been doing this for years on Maxplans. That way people can go ahead and sell their IQD to somebody who's interested in it and get it at a good price and have enough money to be able to turn around, put it into their Roth, let the Roth purchase it so they can have their IQD populated by it. It's a great way of getting it done. It's also a lot lower cost to sell because the dealers, they have a buyback program, but they'll only give you 30% of what you paid for it. Now, if you take a look at the value of the IQD today, it's like $650 per million. Something along that line. So these guys, when they buy it back from you, for the most part, they're buying it for the same price they get it from the banks. So it's not like they just have a great, big, huge markup on it. And then eBay, and a lot of people market their stuff out there on eBay, it charges a setup fee plus 15% on the conclusion of the sale. So that makes it higher for the people who are trying to buy it. It makes it harder for those who are trying to sell it. So the advantage to the buyers is you can negotiate
with anybody who wants to sell. It's entirely up to between the two of you, you know. But it's also a way you can buy it and put it into your one-member LLC, you know, self-directed IRA. Now, you can't do this with a Precious Metal Roth, guys. It has to come from a dealer. So selling your IQD here at the maximum price you can get is going to make that shift much, much easier. And you can also use it because we've got some hard to locate stuff. I've got some people who want to sell smaller notes, and sometimes it's difficult to find or get a good price. So it's available. We've got them here. Now, this whole thing was built on the integrity as a family of speculators, because we haven't had any problems getting this done. But I have taken several steps to ensure the safety of both parties when we get into it. And you don't have to be interested in selling or purchasing at the moment, but I'd highly encourage you to subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything, and I'm going to be keeping current notices going out of what's happening with the currencies and the market has to do with it. So it would be of value just to subscribe for it. So we're going to take a moment and take a glance at currenciesforsale.com, and this is what it looks like. By the way, I just got that logo today. All right, it's a simple website. I built it with GoDaddy. It's nothing's really truly spectacular about having it here, but it does have a home page. And for those of you who don't know, that magnificent building right there, that's CBI. That was built back in Iraq, in Baghdad, to replace the building that was destroyed. So that's pretty dang cool. All right, so on the for sale section, the first thing you're going to see is safety suggestions. And these are the things that I've brought forth to say, hey, if you're going to do this, you want to make sure you do everything safely, just like you do with taxes. And I've linked out the places for people to be able to use their own private processors. So you can protect yourself and protect your buyer by using a processor. Then under that, we've got some IQD, which is up for sale, and I got a new one that just came in today that I'll be putting in later on tonight right there. That's got about 15 million, and smaller notes also, by the way. And V&D, which I don't have anybody in at the moment. And then, I mean, it's also in the to buy side, same safety suggestions, except they're oriented more toward those who are going to buy. Subscribing, it's simple. It's really simple. You give me an email. That's it. Nothing more. Just really, really simple. The rates for the marketing are all included here. It's very clear to understand. There's two separate prices. For those who are selling, it costs a little bit more because there's more work that goes into it. For those who are looking to buy, it costs a little bit less because it's easy. But I would highly encourage you, if you're considering buying something, put it in here, because this is going to get transmitted out to everybody. And so somebody's been sitting on the fence saying, do I, don't I, do I, don't I? If they see your name in here or your connection to say, hey, I'm looking, you know, that might just be enough to spur it and get it done. To register for doing this, it's a 6-step process. I've clearly defined them. I've made it very, very simple. Over here is the payment section and how to find a payment processor. To become a customer, there's an agreement that you see, and you simply fill out 3 lines of information. Then you're going to get a payment. You're going to get an invoice for the ad. After that, you're going to respond. People are going to connect up with you. And when they do, and you come to an agreement and you've got your money secured, then you're going to send your IQD through USPS. Now, you don't have to use USPS, but I'll tell you, that's exactly what most of the vaults are using and what the dealers are using. And so that's a great way to go. And then finally, you need to make sure you notify me to end your ad, because you're getting charged on a monthly basis for it. Now, here's the thing that I found. I have people that post stuff on there, and they wouldn't tell me anything. And so I'd be showing for a long, long time that there was, currency available when there wasn't. So this is why I put that in there. The FAQ, just simple, just 3 little things that people always ask me about it. There's a contact us. Then there's a link right here that says Windfall Gains that takes you right back to Maxplans. And then the last part on more is the downloads. And in these downloads, these are those forms I just told you about that have to do with the First State Depository. Those forms are available right there. All right. So after that, I'm going to sing my song about Maxplans, but I'm not going to sing it very heavy because you guys have heard me sing it like umpteen gazillion times. But I am going to make some suggestions. Okay, so for those of you who have gotten all your options, you've got your Roth, you've got your CRUT, you've got your gifting assignments, you got everything laid out, you're ready to rock, Congratulations. That's awesome. Really great. For those who have been waiting and they want to hang on until after the RV, you need to be careful tax-wise, because the options after it comes to fruition are going to be limited. It's going to be too late to do anything about your estate except for a CRUT. That's it. Too late for a Roth. You're not going to come out of this thing tax-free. For those who want to take advantage of the Maxplan options but don't have immediate cash flow to do it, well, this is where we have another answer. Now, I announced last time that we were going to accept IQD payments for our services. And then I realized that in doing so, it was really a difficult option, as I didn't want to take advantage of offering low prices of the dealers, because I was only going to be able to take it to the dealers and exchange it that way, because I couldn't market it on the IQD on the website. I'd get myself in trouble. And so this is part of the reason why I created the other website, the Currencies for Sale. So those of you who would like to use some of your IQD to pay for the services that Maxplan's got available, and remember, these prices, particularly for the CRUT, I mean, that's half price. And you can use everything there. The gifting assignments, the Roth, the CRUT, all of those are going to be applicable to any kind of a windfall. And it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, you can have property that's sold and you got a great big windfall. You got lotteries like we do here in Oregon. I mean, there's all kinds of ways to be able to make money come in and surprise you. And this way, you're making sure you're taken care of. And for those that are wanting to use that, then there's no charge. I'll put it up there on the website and post it and market it for you at no cost. So to take advantage of the pay for the IQD options, what do you have to do? You make an appointment with me. That's pretty simple. For those that are still not sure what options work best, well, guess what? You can make an appointment with me. For those that have purchased their CRUT and haven't finished it yet, there's a substantial amount, you guessed it, you can make an appointment with me. And I'm glad to get you all caught back up and get you back into the system. For those with questions about First State Depository, I am not the direct guy that knows everything. However, I have learned a lot, and I do have links and places to send people. So if you don't have clarity on it and you can't get a hold of anybody else, because trying to get a hold of the receiver is almost impossible, just give me a call, okay? Make an appointment with me. And you can use this link right here. It's maxplans.com for the free consultation, and that's all there is to it. All right, now, I have been sharing with everybody AI lessons. Now, last time we did this, we talked quite a bit about, this is for Rocket and Rich, we talked about the chat, which I use every freaking day, guys. It's amazing what that silly thing can do. It really is awesome. And you were invited last time, and you're being invited again to sign up for a free membership at Rocket and Rich. And what we're doing is we're posting more lessons and more videos on how to use it. And we're constantly updating it. And it's a way to stay in touch in one singular line of understanding of how to use it. Now, chat is only the beginning. It's just the beginning of everything you want to do. So today, we're going to talk about rewriters. Okay, but just for a real quick refresher about ChatGPT from last time. Okay, now chat is a great tool. By the way, it just got announced, today, yesterday, something along that line, that they've gone to 4.0, which is a step up from the 3.5, which we currently have available. Okay, now Bing, they're out there already, and they're running on 4.0. And then Google, which has not really officially announced their release, which is called Bard, it's coming out here very shortly, okay? And we discussed these last time, all the different things you can do with it. That 3.5 is still available right now on the free one. If you're really going to get into it, they do have a $20 professional level. And then the new 4.0 that just came out has a different fee structure associated to it. For the most part, you get by with the free one. You just got to remember that it's only current up to 2021. All right, so part of using ChatGPT is you have people who look for it, and they look in the materials being presented to say either this is human, or it's AI, or it's plagiarized. Now, that presents an interesting situation, because sometimes the information you want to give, somebody else has already done. So we're going to go talk about that today, on how to bypass detectors and create more humanistic written materials. So AI and plagiarized documents are detectable, like I said, with today's software. And to overcome this, you can use a tool that will make the material readable but not detectable as AI or plagiarized, and make your material grammatically correct. And there are several software packages that do that, and you can find them out there all over the place, okay, under reparaphrasers. But my favorites that I use is Quillbot AI and Grammarly. And they both do many, many things besides just rewrite material. So we're going to take a look at that now, okay? So first of all, what I want to do is I want to bring over an article that's posted on another website. Now, this particular website is Our World in Data. It's dated sometime in 2022, and it's a really great article. I like this article. It also covers a lot of material that I would like to talk about. So what I can do is I can simply take this material, just like that, and copy it. Now, if I took that and put it out directly, particularly if I do not identify where it came from, then I plagiarized, and that is illegal. You can't do that. So there's a way to be able to work around that. And that's where Quillbot comes into play. So you can take this material and you can drop it into here and simply paste it. There's the whole thing. And you say, paraphrase it. And then you see all these colors, all these changes that are going on very, very quickly. This is redoing that same article. Says the same thing, it just rechanges it around. Now from here, Quillbot does have some other options like a grammar checker and plagiarism checker, you know, and those are great, except I found that with this particular one, it's extremely slow. And so I prefer taking my information that I've got here, copying it, and go into using something else called Grammarly. Now, Grammarly is available for free. It's up to a certain amount. You can only get so many words that's going to be able to do the job for you. There are several other word rewriters that are also free. And the other part you'll see is, you'll notice up here on the top of my screen, I've got Grammarly and Quillbot built into my Chrome, because it makes it work all over the place. Okay, so I'm going to take that material I just got through posting and paste it in here. So what happens, the very first thing that it does is it says, well, let's look at this article and say, well, this is not a good phrase. Let's change that part, okay? Or let's change this word. And you'll see up here at the top, there's only 12 suggestions because I only chose a small article. And then you can rewrite everything for clarity when you get all done with it, okay? Then you can rephrase an entire paragraph. And you keep dropping in or changing all of these different words. And what it does, essentially, is it makes everything in your article yours. Okay, so we are just going to get through these very, very quickly. We're going to unnecessary, take them all out. Okay, and then we're going to jump into here, and we'll jump into here, and jump into here, and rephrase that last little part, and that part's all done. And it's talking about the punctuations here on this part, and I'm not going to mess with that for now, okay? And we got it. Okay, now, here's what's awesome about this, is that it says, okay, it's all ready to be reviewed. So the question becomes, was it plagiarized? So we can go and check the plagiarism to see, does this look like anything like another article that was out there? And lo and behold, no. They completely rewrote the article. I still have the same information that I wanted to put out there, but it's rewritten now. And I can go through and change it to make anything I want. Now, the biggest problem that we have with using AI is that it is not personal. And so a lot of material that comes from it has a tendency to look like it's been AI generated. And so it's not acceptable for other things that it could be used for. So that's pretty much it on the rephrasing done. All these things are available, guys, in our free membership over at Rocket Enrich, which is really, really done well. I'm very pleased with it. I encourage you, and I remind you one more time, you're going to get an email going to have all these links, so don't get excited about having to write them down, and we'll go from there.